Which would you rather have? 10,000, we'll say you're a 65-year-old woman, single woman, 65-year-old. Would you rather have 10,000 a year guaranteed or 140,000 of lump sum? Which would you rather have? This is important to understand. 10,000 a year of income guaranteed, not adjusted for inflation, or $140,000 lump sum. So what happened is we have my man David Blanchett and Michael Finke. They did a survey of 2,051 respondents using a panel selected to be nationally representative of adults over the age of 18. The respondents were asked, would you feel more comfortable spending on non-essential items, vacation, eating out with friends, whatever, if you had an extra $10,000 a year guaranteed, not adjusted for inflation, or if you had $140,000 a lump sum? You hear what I'm saying here? So which would you spend more money on? Which would you feel more comfortable spending on non-essential? You had $10,000 a year guaranteed for the rest of your life, not adjusted for inflation, or $140,000 lump sum. So let's take a look what the results are. Very interesting. Survey results. As discussed, we conducted a survey right here. 59.4% indicated they would feel more comfortable spending on non-essential activities, vacation, eating out, whatnot, if they had an additional $10,000 a year of guaranteed income as opposed to $140,000 lump sum. Now, how did we get the $140,000 lump sum? Because that is the cost to do a single premium income annuity for a 65-year-old woman. So basically, it's the net present value of if you're 65 years old right now and you're a single lady, you would pay $140,000 to have a $10,000 per year income annuity. All right, so this is equal Steven there, even Steven. 60% said they'd feel more comfortable spending that additional money on vacation, going out to eat, if they had a guaranteed $10,000 a year as opposed to a lump sum. Isn't it interesting? The preference for spending from additional income versus an equivalent amount of lifetime wealth was greater among participants in lower and higher retirement wealth categories. These results are consistent with the hypothesis that the unwillingness to spend from non-annuitized assets, your portfolio, may be greater than the rational response to acceptance of longevity risk. Behavioral resistance to spending down may be causing additional significant underspending among retirees. I could not agree more. Shifting wealth to an annuitized income can increase spending both as a rational response to reduce risk of outliving savings and by taking away the behavioral resistance to spending down your assets, 100%. So what I always say is people spend to the extent of their income. So let's just say this is your income right here. You're working, you make $150,000 a year. You know, obviously you got to pay taxes, you can have FICA and whatnot. You're going to spend to the extent of your $150,000 of income. If that's because every 2 weeks you get a paycheck, $7,500 a month, whatever that is. Every 2 weeks that paycheck's coming in, $7,500 a month. You got to pay taxes, you got to pay health insurance, all that stuff. I get it. But after that, you're like, all right, I'm free. I'm home free now. I'll spend whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. Buy tickets to the freaking Orioles game. Buy tickets to the Blue Jays game. Look at that, Toronto Blue Jays. I'll do anything. Because you're like, yeah, I got home free. I just saw my liquid assets I have because I've already paid all my bills and all that stuff. So you're going to spend to the extent of your income. Now, what happens is a lot of people, idiotically, they think you'll need 80% of that money, your pre-retirement wealth, to live on. That's just dumb. That's silly. Don't use that. It's kind of like the climate alarmist saying 97% of climate scientists think human beings are causing global warming. Oh, it's fake news, dude. Completely fake. So anyone who uses a 97% climate scientist, just say, get out of here. You just don't know what the hell you're talking about. Same thing with the 80% pre-retirement income. It's just not true. And we know this because how many people are living on 80% pre-retirement income? Not very many. And yet contentment in retirement is through the roof. Why is that? Because here you're making $150 and you'll find things to spend. Once your taxes and all that health insurance are paid, you'll find things to spend to consume your wealth. Even if it doesn't give you a whole lot of satisfaction, you will find things. I'm telling you, dude. It's crazy. Now all of a sudden your income drops to $80,000 because you're retired. Right? You're like, you're still content. Survey after survey after survey shows us that. Why? Because now you're not like gone. You're like, oh, my precious. But now you're a lot more guarded on the things that you're going to spend. Because you don't have that guaranteed 150,000 coming in anymore. Now you got a guaranteed 80,000. You say, I will spend up to the extent of my guaranteed income. Now, if I need to go to my portfolio, I will do it, but I'll do it with massive amounts of due diligence. I get very, very nervous because spending down a portfolio is quite frightening. So we know from studies right here, from a survey, people would rather have $10,000 a year of guaranteed income if they want to increase their spending. People would less rather have $140,000 of liquid assets, even though those two things are exact identical. How much it takes to get a $10,000 guaranteed income annuity. The point being here is if you want to increase your spending, you increase your guaranteed income, your paycheck essentially. And to do that is by a guaranteed income annuity. And right now is the time to do them. Well, not right this second. Oh, sale ends tomorrow. Not like that. I'm just saying because interest rates are so high. I mean, think about it. If my calculator, no, I don't. If you had $140,000, let me just bust out my phone here, and you're getting $10,000 a year on $140,000 for a 65-year-old lady, that's the equivalent of a 10 divided by 140. Oops, 10 divided by 140. That's a 7.14% distribution rate. Yeah, I mean, 3 years ago it was like a 5.14. Now's the time to do these income annuities, especially with the frothy markets and whatnot. Income annuities are so underutilized, it's mind-boggling. So I would absolutely consider doing income annuities, especially if you want to increase your spending without increasing your risk. You're saying, Jeff, what people say, oh my goodness, well, why give the insurance company the money? If I die, they keep it. No, they don't. It drives me up the wall. The insurance company doesn't keep the money. It's based on actuarial tables. They say, Josh, you're a 65-year-old lady. Yeah, 57 flavors. Our life expectancy for you is 83 years. We expect you to live 18 years, whatever. Some people live beyond. Some people die earlier. The people who die earlier are funding the people who live beyond. That's how annuities work. It's just that simple. That's how Social Security works. The people die earlier funding the people who die later. But I died early. I don't leave anything to my kids. Well, you're dead. And by the way, you still have other assets hopefully you can leave to your kids. Because the fact are that you annuitize $140,000, you're not spending that $140,000. You're not spending $10,000 from the other part of your portfolio, which means that money hopefully can grow. I don't know. But why give the insurance company money? I can just take $10,000 a year out. Yeah, you can. But most people don't want to do that. With the studies show, and you don't. You're like, $140,000, especially the market's going south. You're like, I'm not so sure I want to do that. You don't. Because you're nervous about running out of money. And the annuity guarantees you an income that you can't outlive. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to have massive amounts of wealth when you die. It just guarantees that you have an income that you can't outlive. Just a fact. And because you have that guaranteed income, you're more likely to spend to the extent of the guaranteed income as you do with your paycheck. It's just that simple, man. Oh, but I could basically do my own annuity. I'll take $10,000 a year, off a $140,000 portfolio. Even if I'm not making any interest, I'll take 14 years before I have no money left. Yeah, you could do that, but you won't. You just won't, because most people aren't going to do that. They just would rather have the income guaranteed as opposed to pulling from the portfolio. Now, again, we're talking $10,000 a year from a $140,000 portfolio. That's a 7.14% distribution amount. If you were to do that, with no interest, that would be exhausted in 14 years. No one's going to do that. But I can make some money. Yeah, you can also lose some money too. So if you were to pull 7.14% in 14, 15, maybe 18 years will be exhausted. The annuity is guaranteed. I don't know why people get so wrapped around the axle in annuities, man. Now, love your thoughts. God bless. We'll see you